Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. With the meeting of the GST Council postponed to the 22nd, it's now certain that the GST bills will not be passed in this session of Parliament, and that raises the question, can GST roll out in April or is delay inevitable? Second, after demonetisation, is delay both necessary and desirable? Or is that an attempt by the opposition to blackmail the government because it's refused to roll back demonetisation? Those are the subjects tonight. My guests are CPM MP Mohammed Salim, the well-known economist and former Secretary General of FICCI Rajiv Kumar, the editorial director of the Business Standard A.K. Bhattacharya, and BJP MP Kirat Somaiya. Kirat Somaiya, with the GST Council meeting postponed to the 22nd and 23rd of December, and with serious differences between the centre and the states over administrative control, and more importantly, over whether GST needs to be delayed till we know the full impact of demonetisation, will you accept that GST is not likely to roll out on the 1st of April 2017?
We are trying our best. You know, we have also preponed our parliament budget session. And I think that several states also wish that GST should be implemented at as earliest. Few of the government want or parties want that let it be executed from 1st April, and if not possible, may be delayed by a couple of months. Now the GST Council is postponed, that's why we are afraid that whether we will be able to start from 1st April. But once again, we would like to appeal all state government and political parties, let us separate politics from economy.
Rajiv Kumar, speaking as an economist, if the GST Council on the 22nd and 23rd resolve the outstanding differences over administrative control and over rules, and if after that Parliament passes the GST bills in January, will it still be possible to roll out GST in April? Or is that not possible because there simply won't be enough time? Which of the two?
I don't think there'll be enough time because it will take a lot of preparation to get everything in order, and the government's attention would, as it should be, focused on the after effects of the demonetization, which has been a huge measure, as to how to take steps to boost demand and make sure that the economic activity is not does not get into a downward spiral. And the fact is that we have until the 1st of September for the GST to be ruled out, because the constitutional bill gives us that much time. So there is no great hurry, there is no tearing hurry or there should be none on anybody's part. Just one other point that I would want to make is that the opposition parties may well be doing the BJP a favor by letting the GST get delayed, because you know the twin impact of GST would have been more inflation and less fiscal space for the central government. So I'm not sure whether the opposition parties realize that they are doing the government a bit of a favor by delaying the GST rollout from 1st April towards September.
The key question, Mohammed Salim, is what you heard Rajiv Kumar touch on in the first half of his answer, which is GST will anyway shake up the economy, and therefore it should be delayed after demonetisation, because then you will have what people call a double whammy. The finance minister of your party from Kerala, Thomas Isaac, has said, and I'm going to quote him, GST can only be ruled out from September next year. Why is the CPM calling for this delay in GST? Explain it to the audience who may not fully understand.
It's a statement of fact. Now, Rajiv Kumar himself has said that a lot of preparation is needed and it's doubtful whether the time is available. So where is the preparation? Of course, this government, Kirat Somaiya will vouch, is habituated in doing things without much preparation, as in the case of demonetization. But after demonetization, entire calculation of the state's revenue has gone hayway. Where we stand, that will be known only after 30th December. Prime Minister himself has said after 50 days the impact will be at least can be assessed. So in that case, how can you calculate? And why blame opposition? Where is the preparation from the government? They have preponed the parliament session from 16, but where is the preparation? During the midst of the session, GST Council was convened and they did not agree, because earlier also for several years these various states are having various concerns. So in that case, I think government is to blame, because single-minded devotion was needed, but finance ministry or the prime minister in between caught the demonetization and forgot about the GST, and now you are blaming the opposition. I think the opposition enabled the government after passing the constitution amendment bill, and now government was to take all these nitty-gritties, but this government's hallmark is they don't address to nitty-gritties, they only announce from the rooftop.
Well, actually, let's come to what you call nitty-gritties, Mr. Bhattacharya. GST is predicated on a promise to fully compensate the states for any revenue loss for 5 full years, on the basis that revenue will increase by something like 14% each year. Now, both Thomas Isaac, the finance minister of Kerala, and Amit Mitra, the finance minister of Bengal, believe that the loss of state revenue after demonetization will be much greater than anticipated, and therefore the centre will have serious problems fulfilling the promise to compensate in full, and therefore they say GST must be delayed. Do you believe that that line of logic works for you?
Well, I personally feel that this is a more a political statement that has come from the West Bengal finance minister and the Kerala finance minister, because I do believe that demonetization will have a disastrous impact on demand in the economy in the next few quarters, but that it will increase the state's requirement for their compensation of the revenue that will lose is something that should not worry them at this point in time. In any case, I think the center has assured the states that whatever be the state's losses, as long as they can establish those losses, the center will take care of those losses. So I don't think it's an argument that washes, because this is mainly a political statement to take advantage of the situation where the opposition parties, particularly West Bengal and Kerala, they have realized that this is a weak point for the government, and therefore hit them when it hurts them the most. So I don't, and it's unfortunate that GST has actually been a victim of this. I don't believe that GST should become a victim of this kind of politics. There are many other issues, but today probably demonetization and this trust deficit that the opposition states, particularly West Bengal and Kerala, are talking, are actually creating a bigger problem.
Kirat Sumaya, I suppose for the states, the key assurance they want is the following. Can you, after demonetization, give them an assurance that GST will not be a second whammy which will derail the economy? Can you give that assurance to overcome their concerns?
Actually, demonetization, you will see that in a month, 31st December, enough day-to-day functioning liquidity will be there in the hands of the people. And by the end of January, I think we will be back to normal. Today, problem is not demonetization. Actually, the hurdle is about cash economy,
can I interrupt you there?
Economy. 90% of cash transaction.
Can I interrupt you? You're saying that liquidity will be back to normal by the 31st of December, but Amit Mitra, 5 days ago on this program, said that he is anticipating a 7,000 crore revenue loss to West Bengal alone. We don't know about the revenue losses of the other states, but he says as a result, the compensation required will not be the assumed 55,000, it could go close to 1 lakh. How can you reassure people like Mr. Mitra that those concerns are exaggerated? Because if you can't, then they will be very worried to go ahead with GST.
That's what my point, Karan, because there is a temporary phase. As I told you, the demand of purchase is in cash. That has been little bit an inner system trying to create a pressure. Those who want the cash system, that means a tax evasion system, but it is an issue of couple of months. GST will be applicable from 1st April. At that time, everything will be normal.
Okay, in other words, the problems are...
And then also the government of India is ready to promise.
In other words, you're saying that the fear of tax loss or revenue loss is based upon the experience of today. That experience won't apply after 1st April. Therefore, there will be no revenue loss after 1st Aprul. Let me bring you in, Rajiv Kumar, because this is where we need...
Just one sentence.
Go ahead, finish your sentence. Go ahead, finish your sentence.
Just one sentence. One sentence. See, as we will move from cashless system, from cash, automatically revenue is going to increase. The tax will be flowing in the pockets of the state and central.
Whether we move to a cashless system, I doubt.
Going to be reversed.
I suspect we'll move to a system where cash is used less. But how much less is also very questionable. But let's leave that aside. That's a different debate. Rajiv Kumar, this is the time for specifics to try and work out whether the concern these ministers have about revenue loss and the burden on the centre is justified or not. As you know, so far, there is a consensus that 55,000 crore would be needed to compensate the states for their alleged loss. Now, that sum is to be raised by a cess on luxury cars, tobacco, aerated drinks, etc. But we now know that the tax raised from these goods is likely to fall after demonetization, whilst according to Amit Mitra, the compensation need of the states is likely to grow. He says it will grow all the way to 1 lakh, maybe not 1 lakh, but it will grow. Now, in other words, you have a situation, according to Amit Mitra, where sources for compensation are falling, whilst the need for compensation is rising. How do you respond to his analysis, which I believe is the bedrock of his concern?
Yeah, you know, if I was the West Bengal finance minister, I would be concerned as well, because the principal activity, quite unfortunately, in West Bengal is trading. Kolkata has emerged as the trading hub for East Asia and Bangladesh. Manufacturing is just about disappeared, and the trading activity has been hit quite hard because it was conducted in cash, and therefore it will take a little more time for it to build up. But I think one has to agree with Mr. Somaiya that the formal economy, which includes all the big manufacturing plants, etc., is not going to be as badly hurt as Mr. Amit Mitra, assumes it would be. So therefore, as far as I'm concerned, yes, the West Bengal, may suffer a greater revenue loss. But on the other hand, if because of the fact that the informal economy has been folded into the formal economy now, and even if we assume that not all of it would be in our tax net, the tax revenues, both indirect and direct, must increase. And we have seen that until the end of October, indirect tax revenues have gone up by 23%. And I don't think that this decline in revenues that we are suspecting will go beyond the third and fourth quarter of 2016 and 17. So I think it's quite right to assume that come April, come the new financial year, the economy would be beginning to recover, the economic activity would be beginning to recover, and therefore the assumption that there is this huge revenue loss and the sources of revenue that are drying up is, I think, quite misplaced.
Mohammad Salim, let me pick up on a point made by Mr. Bhattacharya a moment ago. If the finance minister of the country is confident of fulfilling his commitment to compensate the states in full, why are you as states worried on his behalf? Because the responsibility at the end of the day is his. And if he's underwriting you, why don't you accept that underwriting as a credible one?
Unfortunately, it's a deficit in the confidence level that the finance minister or the Indian government is now trying to pose. And this is because of their own work. Now, you see, first they started with 2 to 3 days, then 2 to 3 weeks, then 2 months, and now saying by end of January. And then what Rajiv Kumar, he has a good experience in the Indian industries and commerce and trades, but he is saying, my question is, where is this compartment of formal and informal, organized and unorganized? In our country, we see a lot of big industries because of outsourcing, de-departmentalization, depending on the supplies from the informal sectors, home-based industries, tiny sectors, small-scale industries, which is badly affected. Thousands and thousands of units, even in West Bengal, in Eastern India and elsewhere, around Delhi, you will find that those are working for based on the orders to supply in the supply chain for the organized sectors. And when they are badly affected, you will see the chain reaction. Now you may not see, because you are not connected with those people who are home-based industries and tiny industries and the small traders that are doing this business.
Can I interrupt you there?
Secondly, about GST, if you are so serious, because you said this is a unique, one India, one tax, now where you lost momentum? Why you did not take, after the constitution was amended, this period solely to develop a ecosystem where GST could have come through?
Can I interrupt you?
You have diverted
Mr.
the issue.
Salim,
The government of
Mr.
India has
Salim,
diverted the
can I
issue.
interrupt you? Can I interrupt you? We know from Amit Mitra what the possible potential revenue loss this year for Bengal could be. He says it could be as much as 7,000 crore. Do you have any idea what the revenue loss that Kerala potentially faces? Because that will help give some concrete basis to your state government's fears about introducing GST at this point. What is the potential revenue loss you face in Kerala as a result of demonetization?
I think it will not be doing justice if I assess based on this. Thomas Isaac of the Finance Ministry and the government of Kerala would be better positioned, but they have already pointed out the entire economic cycle has now come to a standstill. It's not about Bengal and Kerala, it's about the whole country.
Okay.
And you see, of course, as a consuming state or the trading community, you have affected. But with the cashless economy you are talking about, it's asking people with a less cash. So entire market that is not at the place now at working condition.
You made that point earlier. You made that point earlier, and I understand your fears arise from the fact that you believe economic activity is slowing down. Mr. Bhattacharya, at the moment, to be honest, and you virtually said so yourself in your first answer, we don't know the full impact of demonetization on the economy, and it may take 2, possibly 3 quarters to find out. That being the case, would it be risky to roll out GST in April, and therefore would it be wise, as you've heard Mr. Rajiv Kumar suggest, to delay it a bit, so that you know what the full situation is before you go on this venture?
Well, you know, I personally feel is this, that I personally feel that GST is probably a big reform, a true reform that this country has been waiting for the last 8 or 10 years, and we have come very near it. And to postpone it further to September and probably lose the momentum that the government had picked up by building consultation and consensus on this issue, probably can be politically disadvantageous. It will be better for the government, in spite of the many risks and the many disadvantages of managing the risks of both demonetization and GST rollout. Government will be better advised to rebuild the trust that the opposition parties believe the center has lost, and it has got time for the next 3 months or so, and it should try to stick to the target of April 1. I don't believe that the government has actually lost the opportunity to roll it out from April 1. There are some issues like the GST rates, the item-wise GST rates, dual control issues are there. There are issues about the IT framework that will support the GST system. But I think we have come very close to it, and to postpone it by another 6 months probably would not be politically advisable, and also, of course, economically inadvisable. So I think the government should still try to stick to April 1 deadline, and although the risks are there.
I understand. Kirit, let me put to you the opposite question that I put to Mr. Bhattacharya. What would be lost if GST is delayed till September? The gain we know is that it will give you that much more time to assess the hit of demonetization. The question is, what would be the loss if GST is delayed till September?
I would say that the demonetization is not the only step, because the Modi government from the first day started economic reform. So GST has to follow by demonetization, because demonetization will put cashless system which will help GST to fill up the gap, whatever losses state government is fearing.
I'm not talking about scrapping GST, I'm talking about delaying it. I will understand your concern if GST doesn't happen at all. I'm saying, what is the loss if you simply delayed by 3-4 months to September? 5 months to be accurate.
The momentum which we are going to get after demonetization, it will have a little impact. If GST is implemented from 1st April or immediately, then it will supplement the momentum.
Okay, Rajiv Kumar, the second issue is that even if GST is delayed, it can only be delayed till the 16th of September, because thereafter, if there is no GST, there will be no other taxation either. So, frankly speaking, how much do you really gain by delaying? And you've heard Mr. Bhattacharya say that one cost of delaying is that you lose momentum, and that momentum could mean that a lot of the work starts unraveling. So my question is simple. What do you gain that's meaningful and credible by a delay of 5 months? Or is this just a precursor to a further, much longer delay thereafter if necessary? So is this a stepping stone, or is this just a delay in itself?
No, this has to be a stepping stone, Karan, because as you said, after the 16th of September, there is no taxes, and therefore there is no fisc, and therefore there is no public expenditure. So that's just an untenable, impossible situation, and everybody has to understand that, and everybody does understand that. I'm afraid, the momentum has already been lost, because if because the whole month of November and December would have gone practically without any work, without any work being done. Everybody's attention is focused on the demonetization, and to my friend A.K. Bhattacharya, I should say, the next 3 months are going to be periods of creating much more distrust, because the election campaigning would be on in full swing in some of the major states like UP. So therefore, you're not going to get a situation of the next 3 months anybody trying to build any trust or any confidence within political parties. So my understanding, my take therefore is that, look, use these 3 months to get all your ducks in line, get the IT backbone well prepared, get the national registration, etc., well designed, and at that point of time, after the election results are announced, get back to the talking table and agree to a rollout by July, because that will give you sufficient time to do this properly, and also to have studied the impact of the demonetization. So I'm very clear in my mind that this next 3 months are not the right period for trying to take up the GST and be able to do as much work as is required to have a good, successful rollout.
Mohammad Salim, I suppose the critical question that people have at the back of their mind is this. When your finance minister in Kerala talks about delaying GST till September, is it just September he has in mind? Or is he actually saying that's the first stage, but we need to prepare ourselves mentally for delaying it well beyond September, which would of course require a constitutional amendment, which in the circumstances may not be easy at all. So are you actually using September as a way of preparing the country for a delay that's much longer? Because that's the suspicion that people have in their mind about what he's saying.
I'm not a mind reader. I don't have the wherewithal to read the mind, but I can say what Mr. Rajiv Kumar just now pointed out, that let the government build up the momentum and pick up the threads where they have lost. The Prime Minister himself has taken this opportunity of November and December, instead of addressing to the parliament, instead of addressing the issue, blaming the opponent and going to Lucknow and all the places in Uttar Pradesh for election campaign, a serious economic issue was converted into a controversial political issue, and just to score brownie points, put all the blames to the opposition. And then how can you develop a trust? How can you develop confidence? Within your own allies, you don't have the confidence and trust. So let them face the UP election and let them do politics, and then address, after the election is over, come down on the table and talk about economy, and then try to reach out to the opposition.
But are you also giving me an assurance that you will give every cooperation to the government to ensure, in fact to guarantee, that GST happens by the 1st of September? Are you saying that as well?
That's right.
Is that yes?
So that is what precisely the opposition did while passing constitution amendment. And we appreciated that. Yes, that is what. It's a whole country. It's not BJP. Whole country wanted GST and opposition cooperated.
Okay.
That's how unanimously you passed the constitution amendment bill. But government lost first 2 years. Instead of taking the opposition on board, just trying to score a political brownie point.
Leave the polemics apart. Leave the polemics apart. You began your answer. Mr. Salim, you began your answer by assuring me that you will cooperate with the government to guarantee that GST happens by the 1st of September. Can you give me a clear yes to that?
We are always for this cooperation.
Okay.
And let the GST Council function and decide, because but it's a nitty-gritties have to be worked out.
All right.
Details of so many
When
goods.
you go into details, you sound as if you're backing away. You began by saying we are always for this cooperation, and I assume that is yes, you will help ensure that GST happens by the 1st. Just say yes or no. You've chosen silence instead.
How can I say yes or no? Let the GST meet.
How can I say yes or no? You see, that's the great fear I had. When you say how can I say yes or no, you're giving yourself enough wriggle room to not say yes. When you say how can I say yes or no, you've given yourself enough wriggle room to actually not say yes.
As a party I am cooperating. But
Mr.
state
Bhattacharya
ministers has to take the interest of the state.
Yes, absolutely. But there's so much said there that your answer suddenly lacks clarity, and that's the danger. But obviously, I'll leave it to the audience to interpret which side of the fence you're falling on. Mr. Bhattacharya, given what we've just heard from Mr. Salim, does this have implications for the way investors and foreigners in particular would look upon India? Because the GST Constitution Amendment, when it was passed, was hugely welcomed by investors both at home and abroad. Now that is being delayed, and you've heard Mr. Salim keep open the possibility that the delay could be even further than September, what impact will this have on investment and on India's image abroad?
Well, you know, if you remember, when the Moody's as well as Standard & Poor had held back an upgrade in India's rating, they had exactly expressed the same fear. That let the GST be actually rolling out in India from April 1, and then only we will review and upgrade India's rating. Because I think India's track record and reputation internationally has not been too exemplary in rolling out reforms without any such hitches. So I personally feel, which is why I said that even if it means even in issuing an ordinance or getting the GST bills passed in the first half of January, every effort should be made to stick to the deadline. And my personal view is this, that if it is the deadline is missed, the international opinion on India's as a country of investment opportunity will definitely take a hit. Of course, India is the only country globally where foreign investment taking place. India is still one of the single largest recipient of foreign direct investment, but that doesn't mean that we are tapping our full opportunity. So therefore, it is important to stick to the GST deadline of April 1, try to iron out the glitches, make sure that the GST structure, because you know the GST Council has to meet 22nd, 23rd. Let us hope they meet and resolve the differences. And if you listen to what the Jammu and Kashmir Finance Minister has said, his assessment was completely different from the West Bengal Finance Minister's statement and the Kerala Finance Minister's statement. And Hasib Drabu said that everything has been sorted out. There is only issue which has been which has not been resolved yet is cross power controls. So I don't see any reason why there should be any debate on delaying it any further.
All right, gentlemen, let's take a break at that point. When we come back, we're going to flip the discussion and talk about what I call the politics behind the move to try and delay GST. Some people suspect that this is in fact a form of blackmail of the central government because the central government has refused to roll back demonetization. Is there truth to that suspicion, or is it exaggerated? Is the demand to delay GST an attempt to blackmail the central government because they haven't agreed to what is effectively your demand, that demonetization should be rolled back? Many of your critics believe that this is precisely what you're doing.
Karan, make it very clear. One, this blackmail is a too harsh word. And secondly, CPIM left. In fact, other than Trinamool Congress, no opposition parties has asked for rollback. So it should be informed debate. Where from you got this idea that we are asking for rollback?
I'll tell you.
Day one, you see the statement.
Can I answer that?
Inside Parliament,
can I answer that?
We want to
Can
discuss
I answer that?
And ask
I'll tell you where I got the idea that
Please.
you're wanting rollback.
Please.
My exact words were
Please.
effectively a rollback, because Sitaram Yechuri keeps saying that you want the old 501,000 to continue to be legal tender for all legal purposes. That is effectively rollback. You may not use the word rollback, but if you want it to be legal tender for all legal purposes, it is effectively rollback.
One, very beginning we have said the egg is already broken. It's another matter the government could not make the omelette properly. But I can't ask the egg again. Secondly, what Sitaram told, what the CPIM official position is, what the opposition parties, other than Trinamool Congress, none of us asking for rollback, but it's not possible. And government itself has done a series of rollback from the 8th November speech of Prime Minister that this is a white paper from 12. Then they have asked for exchange, they have asked for deposits and extended for this service to sometimes a flip-flop, but still what we ask is for the common agriculture activities and rural activities, for the small denominations, day-to-day activities, public utility, you continue. And in fact, deposit is continuing till 30th December. Banks is accepting that. But that is not rollback.
Well, you say, no, just a moment, you say it's not rolled back, but I use the phrase, I use the phrase, your position is effectively rolled back, because when Sitaram Yechuri says that he wants the old 501,000 to continue to be legal tender for all legal purposes, that is an effective rollback. You may not use the word rollback, but if that's what you want, that's effectively rollback. It's undeniable.
Again, I am repeating the same thing. From the day one, we are saying that the government addressed to the problem faced by the common people, small traders in the marketplaces, in the village, in the agriculture and farm sectors. But the government failed to address that.
All right, we're going around in circles, Mr. Salim. You and I are not really saying different things. We're just using different language to say the same thing. And I suspect you're not saying it the way I am, because you don't want to call it rollback, because that would put you in the same camp as the TMC, and at all costs you don't want to be taking the same position as the TMC, which is why you're calling for rollback without calling it a rollback. But leave that aside. Kirit Sumaya, let me ask you a simple, blunt question. Are the finance ministers of Bengal and Kerala playing politics through GST? Is that your perception? That's my question, but is it your perception?
I think what you said to Mr. Salim, they are in a way say we support demonetization, but simultaneously they block the parliament, they block the normal functioning. Simultaneously, in a way, delaying the GST, implementation of GST is also, so in a way, indirectly, they want government to be slowed down on economic reform.
In other words, they are using politics to slow down your economic reform. Give me a simple yes or no, so there's clarity. Mr. Sumaya? You're strangely silent. Give me a yes or no. They are using politics to slow down reform.
Yes, they are using, certainly they are using all this technique, gimmick, is just to slow down the reform and the growth.
All right, that's very clear. Mr. Bhattacharya, I won't deny that the demand to delay GST has a certain economic basis. You heard it expressed very eloquently by Mr. Rajiv Kumar. But from your standpoint, your personal standpoint, do you believe that the politics behind the demand to slow down GST is more important than the economic basis? Mr. Bhattacharya.
Well, I agree. I agree with that assessment. I think the politics to delay GST has taken precedence over the economic necessity of rolling it out from April 1. Please remember that this idea of an effective or a effective rollback or a rollback of demonetization is simply not possible. So I think this cannot be really the point of negotiation between the government and the opposition parties. Opposition parties must therefore come to the floor of Parliament and discuss all these issues, and it will be unfortunate if the GST Council does not settle all the issues, and if GST Council, the opposition finance ministers scuttle the GST Council's functioning and do not bring out and resolve all the differences, come out with the rates, come out with the IT framework, come out with the dual control issues. I think it will be unfortunate if the country misses the deadline, because that deadline is important. The world, the country has been waiting for GST for many years, and it is time we gave to this nation a GST, even if it is an imperfect GST. In my view, imperfect GST perhaps is better than no GST.
Gentlemen, before we carry on, I want to make an important announcement. It's just been told to me by my producer that in fact it now looks as if the demonetization issue will be discussed in Parliament for the next 3 days starting tomorrow. Congress is believed to have issued a 3-line whip for all its Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha members. BJP has also issued a 3-line whip to its MPs. Congress MPs are going to meet tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. and it's been announced that the Prime Minister will attend the House for all 3 days. Venkaiah Naidu, the Information and Broadcasting Minister, has said the PM will be in Parliament and the BJP will be holding a strategy meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. So it does look as if after many days of impasse, Parliament will finally debate demonetization tomorrow. The Prime Minister will be present, it said, for all 3 days. But to come back to our discussion, Rajiv Kumar, I'm coming back to that concern about the need to delay GST so that the problems that have been created by demonetization are fully taken care of before we venture down the GST road. When GST was implemented in countries like Canada and Malaysia, there were extensive unforeseen pain. In Canada, it said that in fact that led almost directly to the fall of the Brian Mulroney government a couple of years later. Is that another reason to give greater weight at this stage to whether there are political or economic concerns to delay GST rather than do it on time?
Karan, I mean, if we could, we must meet the deadline. My argument has been, and I will stick to it, that this deadline is now become impractical because we have lost 2 months in the demonetization episode, and we will lose some more time coming into the next month, when we want to work out the effects of demonetization. I think therefore, I would request the government itself not to rush through this, because if there are those unforeseen pains that come through, and if there are some things which will upset the apple cart, then it will be politically and economically very costly. And given that you have 2 or 3 elections in the first quarter of next year coming up, I think it is better to get over that and then to take up the GST issues, because that will give us the right kind of time and attention to sort out and iron out the wrinkles that we have there.
The corollary. Can I stop with that? The corollary to the point you've made. The corollary to the point you've made. I'm stopping you, Mr. Kumar. The corollary to the point you've made is that for practical reasons, you need a delay. It's not a political demand. You're saying it's a practical demand.
But I'm making a practical demand, but I'm afraid the finance minister of Kerala and West Bengal have tended to portray it as a quid pro quo, and which is most unfortunate, because I think they should have in fact worked with the government to make demonetization a success, and then worked with the government to make the GST a success, because both those steps are in the interest of the country.
Mohammed Salim, GST of course could be delayed for two reasons. One, because you believe that the impact of demonetization makes GST impractical. We need to therefore see what it will be before you go ahead with GST. But there's another way of delaying GST, and that is very simply if the GST Council, because of steps taken by you and your colleague Amit Mitra and perhaps some of your other supporters, actually fails to agree on administrative control and fails to agree on the rules as well as under which tax bracket specific items come. That's another way of delaying GST. Would you opt for that because you think the political one might be actually controversial?
First of all, if you travel from the axiom that the opposition is blocking or blackmailing, then all things are coming out of that. There are practical issues which you cannot. It's not a dictatorship. It's not authoritarian government. It's a federal structure. The state governments accepted, and all the states, that we concede, let there be a one tax. And then you have to take them on board about rate, about dual control, and why you lost this November and December. Now you are saying for 3 days in Parliament, Prime Minister will be there. That should have been from the very first day. That is what the demand. They said no, others can manage. Secondly, your visual you are showing in the chamber of the parliament that opposition is not blocking. Ministers are on their legs, scores of ministers. From the treasury bench, people are blocking, but you are showing opposition is blackmailing. So the government should have shown more restraint, and they should have come out with some responsibility. They should have reached out to the opposition and not diverting the issue from the GST to the demonetization at this point of time.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. But the point that emerges at the end of this discussion is that there are at least two ways that GST could be delayed. One, a deliberate political move, which Mr. Kumar thinks is also a practical move because we need to know the full cost of demonetization before we go ahead with GST. But the other way is simply for the GST Council to be unable to agree on dual control and administrative control, as well as all the other items like rules and other items to do with under which tax bracket different items fall. So therefore, the likelihood of GST being delayed is probably greater than the likelihood of GST rolling out on time. That, of course, is only my summation. Truth could be something we have to wait to find out about till perhaps April itself. My thanks to all my guests for joining me. And if you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.